Welcome to this video, the first video after a long break, and I'm glad to be back and finally settled in my new home here. The whole move has taken quite some time and lots of effort. I'm really glad that this is finished. I only have some slight technical things to solve here, but I'm ready to do videos again, and I'm of course taking a look at the London Chess Classics, which has just been finished today with the final round, and probably you will have seen the results already, but I'll go through the tournament result quickly. Yeah, basically you can look at the final table and group this into three groups. The first group is the tournament winner Magnus Carlsen. Not a big surprise, he's winning basically everything he plays. And second place, Vladimir Kramnik. They both had an absolutely fantastic tournament, with Carlsen finishing on +5 in an 8-round tournament, which piles up to close to 3,000 rating performance. And Kramnik managed +4, unbeaten also. And this means 2,939 rating performance, so also absolutely outstanding result. And then on third and fourth place, Hikaru Nakamura and Michael Adams. Quite a surprise. He did very badly in last year's tournament, but made a really great comeback. He easily could have scored even more points, but at the end he had +2, the same as Nakamura, who played his usual fighting chess. They both had 13 points at the end, this strange 3-point scoring system where you can never tell what people actually managed in the tournament. But okay, it was +2 for both players, a great result. And then you have the third group. So we had 2 brilliant results, 2 great results, and then the final 5 players basically did very, very badly. World champion Vichy Arnalt had a bad tournament. He's out of form for quite a long while now. Surprisingly, Aronian played a bad tournament. He finished on -1 and he lost the first 2 games, so it was pretty much done after 2 rounds, and he could slightly recover with the win, but he never really managed to get going. Then Judith Polgar also had a bad tournament with -3, I guess. She won a late game against Luke McShane, who also had a lousy tournament with lots of losses. And Gawain Jones, the British champion, had lots of problems with this in his first super tournament. It's very understandable. He never had this kind of a position. So, but let's get to some chess content actually. And I'm of course looking at the tournament winner Magnus Carlsen here against Judith Polgar. And what needs to be added is that Carlsen broke the all-time ELO record of Garry Kasparov's. It's heavily discussed on the internet, but okay, it's certainly nice to have this record finally broken. 13 years old. And okay, I never doubted that he would manage at some point, and he will also get much higher probably. Okay, let's look at this game. Carlsen opened 1c4. He mixes his opening moves. He plays everything, so very tough for Polgar to prepare. She answered c5, knight f3, knight c6. Yeah, and here's the first interesting moment in this game, because Carlsen here played d4. This move has been seen relatively rarely in recent times, to my surprise really, because if you look at the alternatives, what white mostly plays here is knight c3, but this is nowadays usually answered with either e5 or g6, and white has struggled recently to demonstrate something here. Those slow setups are notoriously boring, and very difficult to get something with white. There are some ideas, but it's not very dynamic. And Carlsen's move, this d4, is the much more aggressive choice, which opens the center. The only drawback is that black can play exactly the setup that Polgar went for, this e6 setup. Black's idea is to get some pressure against the white center, which usually involves moves like bishop to b4 or queen to b6, depending on what white is doing now. For example, if white would try to get going in the center, this bishop b4 would immediately put pressure on the center. So e4 is a very rare move. Actually, this is a Sicilian now, usually reached in the Sicilian move order. The main move is probably g3, but after queen b6, white has problems to show something in recent years, which at the end led to this move, which Carlsen now played. It's not the most aggressive move, but it has some definite advantages. It prevents bishop b4, of course, and it asks black, okay, what are you trying to do next? If black is playing in a very slow fashion and doesn't do anything much, then white could go e4. Let's say a6, white would play e4 and get this typical Marozzi bind in the center against a kind of Sicilian hedgehog formation. In the game, Polgar played bishop c5. We see that something similar happens. She attacked the knight retreated, and bishop e7. So black has wasted a move with bishop c5 and bishop e7, but has managed to dislodge white's knights from d4 to b3, where it is less aggressively placed. White takes the center with e4, castles, bishop e2. Yeah, b6 is logical, shadowing the bishop. Yeah, now we have a position which is very close to this typical hedgehog formation, with black placing pawns on d6, a6. But one distinct difference is that the knight here on c6 is somewhat strangely placed. Normally this knight goes to d7. So it's a slight problem for black that this knight is somewhat misplaced. On the other hand, white also has some problems. This knight on b3 is not great. It would certainly need a move to get to a better square. And also white has played a3, which is also probably okay, but it sort of determines white's future pawn structure on the queen side, as he was never really able to play b3 to support the pawn. So mostly he would need to go b4 later. We see that in the game. First of all, Carlsen played bishop f4, which is very direct. He simply intends to put this bishop on d6, and this would really cramp black position. So black played d6 to prevent this bishop d6 move. Rook c1, which is simply a useful strengthening move. Black also rook c8. I think up to this point it's a pretty normal position. Not much happening really. Rook e1, centralizing further. And knight e5. Yeah, this actually I thought would prepare this regrouping of the knight to d7. However, Judith Polgar played it in a slightly different way. We see what happens. Knight to d2. Of course, knight e5 was also attacking the pawn. What's important to note is that taking on e5 is just a very serious positional mistake that white shouldn't do. After the recapture, you could say, okay, black has got a double pawn, but look at those pawns. They control very, very important squares in the center, and black has also got two bishops. So this position is very good for black. Also take note that giving up the dark squared bishop really weakened all dark squares. So this is just terrible. It would be okay if a knight would take on e5 and transform this pawn structure, but you cannot give up a bishop for this. Okay, of course Carlsen didn't do that. He played knight d2, covering the attacked c4 pawn. And now knight to d7, which really surprised me a bit. I was really thinking black would do this regrouping, knight e5 to d7, so a6 and knight back, something like this. Let's say here, and a6 along these lines, which would set up the classical hedgehog formation. Black has lost a bit of time with knight e5 d7, but time is not such a big issue in the hedgehog. So probably this would be pretty okay for black. Okay, knight to d7 and bishop e3, which actually is a novelty. I was surprised to see that all this has been played before. I'm also quite sure that Carlsen wasn't in his concrete preparation, so to say, just playing this on over the board. What has been played before, and pretty interesting, was b4 in a game Van Veli against Gashimov. King h8, bishop e3, and g5. This was what Gashimov played. I think it's a pretty interesting plan, and actually a plan that tries to make some sense of this knight placement. This g5 move controls f4, so that white cannot easily play f2 to f4 to attack the knight. So this is a very interesting positional concept, which is also well known in the Sicilian and hedgehog positions. So this was interesting. The interesting fact about the current game is, after bishop e3, Carlsen intends f4, obviously, but he's somewhat quicker now. So here it would have been interesting to see if g5 would be playable. I think if you look at the game, maybe this was a very critical moment where Polgar could have gotten at least a somewhat more unbalanced position, where black maybe has got some interesting counter chances. Black sometimes really can play king h8, rook g8, and try to get something on the g file. It's a very typical maneuver. It's of course a little bit risky, but it's at least much more unclear than the game. Let's look at what happened in the game. She played queen c7, b4. The g5 is a constant idea, but she didn't go for it. Queen to b8. This is also rather typical, getting the queen in the corner to attack e4, but a queen in the corner is very, very far away from the king, so we need to be cautious with this. f4, knight to g6, g3, and now you really have to ask yourself, what the hell is this knight doing on g6? It's just looking at pawns, but black still is fairly solid. It's not that black is much worse already. Rook e8, bishop f3, white is just taking space and strengthening the position. Little moves like this are important. Bishop f2, oops, this one. Bishop f2 to overprotect e4 and prepare the future e5 move. Now black dropped back the knight to f8. It's really not doing much on g6. This is clear. Queen to e2, queen to b8. It's just a waiting game. Rook d1. And here we have a really critical position where now Judith Polgar commits a pretty serious positional mistake. But it takes also Carlsen's very precise way of playing to show that this is really such a bad move. She now played g6, and this is a fairly typical move in hedgehog positions, but usually in those kind of positions the knight is not on f8, and this is the problem. The f8 knight simply has no scope at all. Okay, you can say it came from g6. Why is g6 such a great square? Let's see what happens White now played the very typical move e5, and we see pretty quickly why this is a problem. This piece constellation on the king side. Let's say, just for comparison's sake, black would have played a move like h6 or any waiting move, a nothing move. If white then would play e5, which is a typical way to make progress, then in this case you can have a look at this kind of position here. Black, for example, can play knight g6. The knight cannot be attacked with the f-pawn anymore, and really now those two knights do something. They attack e5 and put some pressure on this important pawn. So it's a useful role that piece is playing. If you look at the game, after g6, e5, bishop c6, it's not much of a difference if black takes or white takes on b7. It's always the same structure. Let's look at the structure. White played bishop d4 to protect. Well, what I should show, however, is if black would take here, you would take here, and we get the same structures in the game. There's not much of a difference. Alright, so she played bishop c6, bishop d4, rook d8, takes, and knight f3. And exactly this kind of position is the problem. Black now took. This kind of position is exactly the problem. Look at these two knights, those knights. f8 doesn't have a square, as d7 is blocking the square, and the knight on d7 also cannot go anywhere. It's simply a terribly passive position. Also, in addition, this g6 move here has weakened this is very, very red. f6 and h6 are very weak. So also the king can be a problem. This position would be much better if you could now play g6 to g7 back then, preparing knight g6, but obviously this is not possible in chess. So now black has all those holes, h6, f6, d6 also. Yeah, it's really problematic to defend this. She played rook c8, getting some play against c4 at least. And now knight e4, queen c7, and knight to d2, protecting the pawn. If black would have played a5, which is also an interesting move, attacking on b4, then white has a very strong reply besides others. Yeah, b5 is also not bad at all. This is also a very strong move, trying to attack f7, and this is actually very difficult to defend. Also b5 and knight d6, this kind of stuff is also quite strong. Black is just terribly passive, especially the knights. Yeah, in the game queen c7, knight d2 was played. a6. Yeah, because b5 was the threat. Knight f2. Yeah, this introduces the idea of knight g4 to h6, amongst others. Bishop g5. Yeah, trying to attack d2 and therefore increase the pressure on c4. But of course, moving the bishop away is a problematic decision. Yeah, white just played rook f1. Now getting back to a plan of a kingside attack, and she took on d2 and on e5, simply based on the assumption to just grab some material at least, but it didn't really help. Here black also could consider a take on c4. Should look at this quickly. And now knight g4, and this now is terrible. Knight to h6, and it crashes down on f7. Black is pretty much lost here. Yeah, she took on e5, but this is answered by a quite similar thing. Knight on g4, attacking the queen, and also aiming at f7. So this is a tricky response at least.
Check.
But white can give this check and
check.
Take here. And now the important move, queen f2. Oops, attacking on f8, of course. The poor knight on f8 now is the center of attack, the target of an attack. Yeah, queen d4, exchanging queens at least. But white has yeah, many good moves now. Rook f1 would have been good. What Carlsen played also is strong. He played c5, weakening the back rank. She took and
check.
Now takes and rook c5. And now we see that the back rank here is an issue. What should black do? The rook is attacked, and if black would take here, then white can simply recapture, and all those pieces are just simply terrible. And the c-pawn is very, very strong. So yeah, she decided to play rook to d8 and not exchange. But this, of course, leads to 2 rooks on the 7th. And yeah, I don't know. I have yet to see a game where in a quite simplified position, 2 rooks on the 7th, yeah, did not win, unless you're mate immediately or something. No, I'm sorry. 2 rooks on the 7th rank usually win the game, and this is no exception.
Check.
She gave a couple of
check.
checks, and here dropped back with the idea of rook h5. No, I'm sorry, rook h5. But white can simply retreat the knight and intend to go to f6, which would set up something close to a Zugzwang position. And in fact, this is just
check.
what happened. Rook check.
Check. Check.
So a couple of spy checks, and now black doesn't have a check. No, I'm sorry. Okay, but we're close to the end of the game. Rook f7, and yeah, the knight is hanging and the rook is hanging, so only move. And now knight f6. Yeah, and this is simply the most terrible piece setup that is possible against the king. King cannot move, knight cannot move, and basically, yeah, black is in Zugzwang. She can just play meaningless moves like this, and white can simply improve. Yeah, here black played the desperate a5. There's not much else. White can simply go with the king towards the queen side and pick up material. So a5 takes, rook a8 and a6. And now black resigned. There's simply no move. You cannot take a6 because of
check.
the capture here. And simply here, if black now
check.
tries to
check.
get back the knight, you have this interpose, and white has an extra piece at the end. And yeah, if black cannot take a6, there's simply a7, rook b7, and rook b8, and wins. So a very, very clean win here for Carlsen. In fact, he said after the game that this would be his best game in the tournament. Okay, he played some games after that, but I'm rather sure that he would, yeah, he would still say that this would be the cleanest win that he managed in this event. So this is why I chose the game. I also have to say that the guys who did the organization for the London Chess Classic did a brilliant job of doing online coverage. There's hours of video coverage from the event with live commentaries by the players, by grandmasters like Nigel Short or Daniel King. So great stuff. If you want some, yeah, something like chess on TV, then this is the closest you can get. Go to LondonChessClassics.com and or just Google it. You'll find the homepage, and then you also get to the video archives. It's very interesting to learn about the players' thoughts and ideas during the game. It's also quite funny sometimes, because it's live, and the players sometimes are very candid about what they saw in the game or what they didn't see, and whatever. It's sometimes also surprising what what they're saying. It's interesting. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. I'm back with videos, and we'll do now updates regularly. Probably not on a daily basis. I think I still have some things to do here, but there'll be videos, a couple of, yeah, let's say 3, 4, 5 videos a week I'll manage, not daily ones, but yeah, stay tuned. There will be new videos soon. Yeah, thanks, and till next time.